Ladies and gentlemen, thank you and welcome to AFSA's annual awards ceremony. We'd like to welcome Ambassador Barbara Stevenson, President of AFSA, and Ambassador Nancy Powell.
Good afternoon, friends, colleagues, and esteemed guests. Welcome to AFSA's annual awards ceremony. It gives us a chance to honor some truly outstanding members of the Foreign Service and the Foreign Service community. It's our great privilege to have a role in recognizing the dedication, patriotism, and just sheer excellence of the professional career Foreign Service. And I want to extend a special welcome to Ambassador Powell and her many friends and family members who are here with us. I'm so glad that so many of you were able to be here to celebrate your friend and your mentor. I also have the great honor of welcoming and recognizing 5 former recipients of AFSA's Lifetime Contributions to American Diplomacy Award. Senator Richard Lugar. Ambassador Ruth Davis. And Ambassador Roz Ridgway is with us. Let's do a round of applause for Ambassador Ridgway. Stu Kennedy. And up with us, Ambassador Bill Harrop. To all of the former recipients of the Lifetime Contributions to American Diplomacy, I just want to say thank you for all that you have done and continue to do for American diplomacy, which we know is essential for that strong American global leadership that 9 in 10 of our fellow Americans tell pollsters repeatedly that they support. So thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for supporting us. I'm also honored to have with us many of our senior Foreign Service leaders. I want to acknowledge Tom Shannon, Bruce Wharton, Dan Smith, Tom Stahl. We've got John Heffern, Virginia Bennett, Mark Taplin, Joe McManus, Luis Arriaga, and Alexander Arvizu. Susan Stevenson, are you here? Okay, just to recognize. This afternoon we have the pleasure of presenting 10 awards to some outstanding individuals. Our Lifetime Achievement Award, 3 awards for constructive dissent, and 6 awards for exemplary performance. I want to recognize and thank the sponsors of today's awards: the Nelson B. Delavan Foundation, Clements Worldwide, the Rifkin family, the Boland family, and the Palmer family. Thank you for your support and your generosity. And again, thank you all for joining us today. Our first award this afternoon is for Lifetime Contributions to American Diplomacy. Since we first gave this award in 1995, some true giants of American diplomacy and foreign policy have been among its recipients. In addition to the 5 individuals in this room, the list includes former President George H.W. Bush, former Secretaries of State Cy Vance, George Shultz, and Lawrence Eagleburger, former Senator Sam Nunn, former Congressman Lee Hamilton, and such Foreign Service luminaries as Tom Pickering, Joan Clark, and Tom Boyett. And today we add the name of another Foreign Service luminary to this impressive list, that of Nancy J. Powell. Ambassador Powell has been a towering figure in this building and in our profession while representing our country around the world for almost 40 years. Nancy Powell was born in Cedar Falls, Iowa, and attended the University of Northern Iowa, from which she received both of her degrees. She then taught high school in Dayton, Iowa, population 900, for 7 years before joining the Foreign Service, and it has been our great fortune that she did. Her 37-year Foreign Service career is truly exemplary and well known to everyone in this room. Nancy served as the desk officer for Nepal, Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Africa, and Deputy Chief of Mission in Togo and Bangladesh. She then went on to serve as U.S. Ambassador to 5 countries: Uganda, Ghana, Pakistan, Nepal, and India. And of course, we at AFSA remember well her time as Director General of the Foreign Service. But we couldn't just let someone of Nancy's caliber walk out the door when she retired in 2014. So we asked her back to oversee the department's response to the Ebola outbreak. Everyone will know that the predictions of it reaching 1 million people collapsed as soon as Nancy was named. And she's been an indefatigable mentor for countless people in this department, ranging from interns and entry-level officers to the ambassadorial seminar classes. She's mentoring one now. And it's no surprise that Nancy made the rank of Career Ambassador, the highest possible rank in the Foreign Service. Only 58 other people have achieved that award since 1956, that level, and Nancy is only the 6th woman to be honored with that distinction. She's a friend to many, a role model to all, and we are so proud to call her a colleague. She exemplifies the best of the professional career Foreign Service. It is my great honor to ask Nancy to come to the podium now so that we can give her this well-earned recognition. Nancy?
Thank you so very, very much, Senator Lugar, the other people that I am joining in this honor. I thank you for being here today. I'm deeply honored to receive this award and very much appreciate the recognition from AFSA, particularly of my stewardship of the State Department's greatest asset, its people. I want to congratulate all of those who are receiving awards today for their constructive dissent, for their exemplary performance, as well as to those who were nominated. There is no better testament to the excellence and the expertise of this Foreign Service than the stories of these individuals and their contributions to our national security. I'd like to thank Ambassador Stevenson for her kind words and for her leadership of AFSA. It's never an easy task, and the DG knows that. But it has been made more difficult and challenging by proposed personnel and budget cuts. Barbara, best wishes to you and your team as you begin your 2nd term. As a school teacher from rural Iowa, I had an enormous learning curve when I entered the Foreign Service in 1977, and I am delighted to see 2 of my classmates right here front and center. I had the great good fortune to serve with many people who were far ahead of their time to assist me in adapting to and later advancing in my new career, who provided role models that helped me form my own leadership style. I especially want to recognize and thank Ambassadors Peter Burley, Howie Schaefer, Arnie Rafel, and Beth Jones. We all know them for their regional expertise and their policy-making skills, but I had the additional joy of knowing them for their encouragement, their empathy, and their exemplification of Foreign Service leadership at its finest. I also want to acknowledge and thank those who served with me through the years. I look back on our teamwork with pride, with gratitude, and with a multitude of stories. As Ambassador and Director General, I had a magnificent set of deputies. Ambassadors Mike McKinley, Denise Mathieu, Bill Monroe, Pat Butenis, Steve Browning, and Don Liu, as well as what I hope are ambassadors to be, Randy Berry and Michael Pelletier. That's a plug for the D Committee. And without the Davi, also known as Karen and Tom Davis, I am quite sure that I would not be here. Karen's organization skills are legend. She kept me on time and on track and sane most of the time. I once called Tom my secret stealth weapon for his work with the various embassy communities, along with all the cinnamon rolls and all the fried chicken. Again, I want to express my thanks to my Foreign Service family. You are truly the best. The benefits of a Foreign Service career are myriad. I may have been attracted initially by the foreign part, and I've loved seeing the world. But I came to prize the service part. Whether it was helping an ill American citizen, promoting an American company's interests, or seeking greater counterterrorism cooperation, I never doubted that I was doing something that mattered. But perhaps most importantly, I came away with a fuller appreciation of my good luck to be born an American. At most of my posts, I only had to look out the window or glance at the local papers to know that I wasn't in Iowa anymore, and that the freedoms and opportunities that I had taken for granted as an American were far from universal. I've not lived a day of my life when America was not the acknowledged leader of the free world, a role which most Americans have enthusiastically embraced. I observed firsthand how that translated into the hopes of many around the world that America's leadership would help them obtain rights to express themselves and to choose their own leaders, protect them from violence, and give them tools to ensure their children a better life. I have witnessed the results of America's boots on the ground, whether they were military combat boots, Peace Corps flip-flops, USAID Nikes, CDC Crocs, or states' traditional wingtips, and I am very proud to say there are a whole lot more heels these days. The result of America's leadership during my lifetime has been a world where more countries are holding democratic elections and peacefully transferring political power. Life expectancy has dramatically increased thanks to lower infant mortality and maternal mortality rates. More children are attending school, fewer people are below the absolute poverty line, smallpox has been eliminated, and polio and HIV/AIDS are meeting their match. I firmly believe that these advances also mean that America is safer, more prosperous, and more secure. America did not do this alone. We have had the assistance of our allies and our non-governmental organizations, as well as the sacrifices of people on the front lines of change around the world. But Americans led the way by example and by the successful planning and execution of our policies and programs by people who combine their expertise with compassion and dedication to America's values. We have made mistakes, and we still face challenges of terrorism and extreme nationalism, of nuclear proliferation and new pandemics, and of human rights violations and grinding poverty. But we have shown that progress is possible. We have also learned that this progress does not come cheap. The plaques in the State Department entrance are only one testament as they honor those who paid the ultimate price to advance America's global mission. While diplomatic security continues to rank threat levels, the reality is that no American diplomatic mission is risk-free. Our people are on the front lines every day, everywhere. I share the sentiments of many who believe that theirs is an essential mission, one that enhances America's security and prosperity, and one that is in many ways uniquely American, as it combines our self-interest with our commitment to making the world a better place for all. As former Secretary Powell, known affectionately in my embassies as the other Powell, said recently in an op-ed entitled "America's Leadership, We Can't Do It for Free," and I quote, "Confronting such challenges requires not just a military that is second to none, but also well-resourced, effective, and empowered diplomats and aid workers. America is great when we are the country that the world admires, a beacon of hope and a principled people who are generous, fair, and caring. That's the American way. If we're still that nation, then we must continue to devote this small but strategic 1% of our federal budget to this mission, end quote. As America debates its future role on the global stage, either formally or by way of its budget priorities, I am confident, absolutely confident, that all of you in the State Department, in whatever capacity, will continue to serve with distinction and professionalism, bringing your expertise and experience as well as a well-honed ability to adapt to change, whatever its source. I know that you will exemplify the highest standards of ethical conduct and a commitment to equal opportunity for all. I hope that you will pay forward the mentoring and support you have received to our new colleagues who join the ranks of those proud to serve our nation. From my bench on the beach, I continue to work as a private citizen to help secure the resources you need to conduct your essential roles in designing and implementing American foreign policy, in ensuring that the security and smooth functioning of our missions that serve the American people and the interagency, in guaranteeing that you have the training you need to succeed, and in building on the progress made in mitigating poverty, disease, and disasters around the globe. In this way, we can ensure that America's leadership continues to make not only our nation, but also the world a better and safer place. Thank you all very much.
That was wonderful. Thank you all. So we now will turn to our awards for constructive dissent. AFSA's worked for the past year to actually refine the definition that we use for constructive dissent. So we were very pleased to see a number of excellent nominations come forward this year. As a result, we're honoring some truly outstanding members of the Foreign Service today. Before I invite our first presenter to the podium, I want to read from a letter I received recently. Quote, "I have a high regard for members of the Foreign Service who serve so honorably, and I'm sorry to miss this opportunity to pay my respects to these outstanding professionals. Barbara joins me in sending warmest wishes for a memorable gathering on June 20. The person who wrote that letter was former President George H.W. Bush. He understands, as we in this room do, that the men and women of the Foreign Service are a highly capable, experienced, and adaptable group of professionals. We strongly believe that it is our duty to call things as we see them, because that's in the best interest of our country. In many cases, we may provide input that calls into question the wisdom of a proposed policy direction or challenges the validity of a procedure. Doing so is a core element of leadership in the Foreign Service context, a duty that is required of us. The 6 members of the Foreign Service we honor today all showed that leadership. They stood up in a principled manner on policy issues as well as management issues. And at the end of the day, our institution, the Foreign Service, and our country were made stronger by their courage and conviction, their good judgment and tenacity. It's now my honor to introduce Ambassador Charles Rifkin, son of the late William R. Rifkin, to present the Constructive Dissent Awards that are named for his father. Charlie?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful for me to be back here at the State Department and to see so many former colleagues and familiar faces. And today I'm proud, as the ambassador was saying, to carry on a tradition that dates back to 1968, when my family worked with AFSA to establish the first ever award recognizing intellectual courage and constructive dissent for the mid-level Foreign Service officer. Now, as it's been said that Thomas Jefferson believed that dissent is the highest form of patriotism, but as a former ambassador and a former CEO in the private sector, I can also say with certainty that dissenting voices and dialogue lead to smarter policy decisions both in the public and in the private sector. So today, on behalf of the Rivkin family, I have the privilege of recognizing not one, but actually 5 winners today. And it's a pleasure to be able to spotlight so many members of the Foreign Service for their constructive dissent and their courage. So I'll begin by congratulating Wendy Bronfman, the consular chief at the U.S. Embassy in Kampala, Uganda. Now, upon her arrival in 2015, Wendy realized that the adoption system in Uganda was profoundly broken. So documentation was often fraudulent, questionable, or non-existent. The government wasn't even enforcing its own rules and policies, and U.S. citizens were being pressed to pay bribes, and children were being accepted for adoption and rushed through the system without any due diligence. So, as a result, adoption intermediaries in Uganda were securing substantial fees this way. So, Ms. Bronfman repeatedly raised her concerns about violations of Uganda law and regulations with her CA colleagues, initially through phone calls and later increasingly in front channel cables. Now, through a series of 15 targeted cables, and I'm told there were many more after this nomination was written, she steadily built the case about the preponderance of fraud and the fleecing of U.S. citizen parents that was occurring in Uganda, which ultimately persuaded Consular Affairs to make the unprecedented decision to bar a particular adoption provider in Uganda. The Kampala consular reporting was so convincing that Consular Affairs is now reviewing Embassy Kampala's request to formally suspend all adoptions in Uganda. And thanks to Ms. Bronfman's perseverance and dedication, both vulnerable Ugandan children and U.S. parents are protected from those who seek to exploit the adoption process for their own ends. So, Wendy, please join me on the podium to accept this award for your outstanding work.
Ambassador Rivkin, many thanks to you and your family and to AFSA for supporting this award and thereby advancing something that I think is essential to a vibrant democracy and to a professional foreign service. I also extend my gratitude to the U.S. Ambassador to Uganda, Deborah Malik, and to our Deputy Chief of Mission, Colette Marcelin, both of whom guided and encouraged me to this point. My Ugandan embassy colleague, Nyla, has been my particularly strong partner in seeking what's right for U.S. citizens and Ugandan children that they have sought to adopt. I'm sorry she couldn't attend, but really I share this award with her. Excuse me. Further, I thank my friends, family, and colleagues, many of who are here, fortunately, today, who helped me face the many challenges that I encountered in connection with the intercountry adoption portfolio during the last 2 years, and indeed who have supported me during all of my 12 years of Foreign Service career thus far. My husband, also a Foreign Service officer, should himself win an award for the patience, guidance, and empathy that he has shown to me during these last 2 years, much of which was a challenging time. William Faulkner said, "Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed." I know that these are strong words, but they have never felt truer than today. Many thank yous. Thanks.
Well, congratulations again, Wendy. And before I go on, I do want to acknowledge Ambassador Stevenson for her tireless support of constructive dissent, and I've witnessed it firsthand, to Asgeir Sigfusson, Perry Green, and the AFSA communications team, who behind the scenes make this possible every year, and I can attest there's a tremendous amount of work to putting on these ceremonies, so thank you very much. So now to our other 4 recipients who are being honored together as a group for their long-term, persistent, inclusive, and ultimately successful campaign to bring transparency to the assignment restrictions process at the Department of State. And I'm honored to highlight the work of Mary Ju Bofill, Cecilia Choi, Christina Lee, and Tom Wong during their time as leaders of the Asian American Foreign Affairs Association. Now, recognizing that the lack of clarity and transparency in assignment restrictions hinders the department's efforts to utilize its diverse workforce, and it denies employees the opportunities to apply their language and cultural assets to advance the department's mission. And recognizing all of this, these 4 Foreign Service officers consulted with the American Foreign Service Association. They consulted with lawyers and senior departmental leaders in an effort to work within the system to advocate for change. So after patiently pushing this issue, the Foreign Affairs Manual, the FAM, was updated to now include language that creates an appeals mechanism that ensures employees receive notification of the factual grounds for their assignment denial if it took place. They're also given an opportunity to address the potential security concerns that might exist, and now they're provided with a second review of their cases. So the AFA presidents have shown great dedication, patience, and passion over the years to work constructively to get to a positive conclusion that's going to be beneficial both to AFA members and to other department employees around the world. So Mary Ju, Cecilia, Christina, and Tom, you 4 are exactly the kind of Foreign Service officers that my family had in mind when we established this award so many years ago, because it took courage to recommend this type of change. But in the end, you helped make this department a lot stronger. So congratulations to all of you, and it's my pleasure to ask you to come to the podium to accept your award.
How do you want to do this? You can hand them to them.
Thank you to the American Foreign Service Association, to Ambassador Rivkin. To all of you present here today, I also want to congratulate the other recipients of this prestigious award. I was 10 years old when my father took me to Malacañang Palace in Manila, shortly after the People Power Revolution that toppled the regime of Ferdinand Marcos. My parents immigrated to the United States from the Philippines in 1969. I grew up hearing the words martial law and dictator. What I remember most of this visit is what my father said: with conviction, faith, and patience, eventually justice will prevail. I was the first leader of the Asian American Foreign Affairs Association to raise the issue of security preclusions disproportionately affecting Asian American Foreign Service officers in a meeting with Secretary Clinton in 2009. advocating on the issue for the next 3 years as the longest-serving president of AFA, I oversaw a 300% growth in membership and developed the organization into an important model to increase Asian American and Pacific Islander representation in the federal workforce. After many years of AFA's steady advocacy on this issue, it is hugely satisfying to know that we have helped to ensure transparency in the process for all Foreign Service officers. I want to recognize my parents, siblings, and aunt who are here with me today. My family made me who I am today. To my husband and my sons, I love you very much. Thank you to my mentors, friends, and fellow AFA board members, past and present. Please join me at this moment in recognizing 2 Asian American trailblazers in diplomacy here with us today. Our very first Asian American ambassador, Julia Chang Block. I saw you come here today. And also, Ambassador Donald Yamamoto, the highest ranking Asian American Foreign Service officer. All great supporters of AFA. I would like to close with a quote as a first-generation American that has always resonated with me. As Dr. Martin Luther King said, "Though we all may have come in different boats, we are all in the same boat now." Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to thank AFSA and the Rivkin family, as well as Das Arvisu for nominating us for this award. My mom always said that I should focus on being smart, not a smart ass, and hopefully this means I put the two together. Now, we couldn't have gotten this far without all the friends and allies we've made on our way, so I really am so proud that we actually have several generations of AFA leadership, as well as many others who are with us in spirit who really helped push forward this issue. But in conclusion, I'd like to thank AFSA for even honoring and respecting constructive dissent. Our country is stronger when we have a foreign service community that encourages integrity and intellectual honesty, that helps us to faithfully execute the oath that we all took on our first day to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Okay, I would like to extend my sincere thank you to AFSA for selecting me as a recipient of this year's Constructive Dissent Award. I'm particularly honored to be receiving it alongside many of my close colleagues, truly a few of the best and brightest the Foreign Service has to offer. To me, the department's adoption of guidelines making the assignment restrictions process more transparent attests to a belief that I have long held about the department. Not that it is not without its blemishes, but that it is wholly willing to acknowledge them, then fix them. To me, that's what makes state great. So although the 4 of us are being recognized this evening, we'd be remiss if we didn't praise the membership of the Asian American Foreign Affairs Association. Our advocacy to the department leadership on this issue was framed by the personal stories of at least 24 employees, so much recognition goes to them for their moral courage and their willingness to come forward both publicly and privately. So in closing, having just concluded intensive language training, I'd like to proffer a Confucian saying, 是可忍,孰不可忍. If this can be tolerated, what cannot? Our experience in challenging what we had perceived as an unfair assignment restrictions process has revealed to me that the voices of constructive dissent at any level, if spoken with dignity and respect, can resonate with department leaders. And this can contribute towards making state a more diverse, more honorable, and a more perfect organization. Congratulations again to my fellow recipients. Thank you.
Thank you to AFSA and the Rivkin family for recognizing the value of dissent. I'm honored to receive this award along with Tom, Mary Ju, and Cecilia, who laid the groundwork for me to continue their efforts. The policy changes we made wouldn't have been possible without the countless foreign and civil service officers who raised their concerns. I hope that they, along with many others, will be able to benefit from the reforms. I would like to acknowledge former Deputy Secretaries Blinken and Higginbottom, who made this issue a priority. Thank you to the Office of Civil Rights, AFSA's Ambassador Stevenson, Vice President Angie Bryan, and Attorney Colleen Fallon-Lenigan for their advocacy. And of course, thank you to Diplomatic Security for helping us come to an equitable solution. On a personal note, there are some mentors here in the room that I'd like to acknowledge. Ambassador Alex Arvizu, the leadership liaison to the Asian American Foreign Affairs Association. He has been an incredible advocate, ally, and friend, not only to the affinity group, but to me, so thank you. Ambassador Dan Smith, who has been my boss for 2 of my 4 assignments. Contrary to the sign on his seat, he is not retired. Hopefully I can make it 3 out of 6 assignments. Thank you for your kindness and honest conversations and leadership by example. There's also many others in this room that I'd like to thank, but cannot, but Ambassador Ruth Davis, Virginia Bennett, Ambassador Lino Gutierrez, Ambassador Phil Goldberg, thank you. And finally, my family is here today, including my Peace Corps family. I wouldn't be where I am or who I am without them, so thank you. To my parents who came to America as refugees, you've raised a dentist working in underserved communities, a researcher helping to find a cure for cancer, an engineer designing solutions to prevent traffic accidents, and me. I'm sorry I didn't go into career in science like my siblings, but I hope you're proud of me today. Thank you.
Congratulations, you guys. And now I'd like to ask Ambassador Bill Harrop to come to the podium to present the F. Allen Tex Harris Award for Constructive Dissent by a Foreign Service Specialist.
You know, when you think about it, dissent is a very, very basic part of democracy. You really have to have a freedom to give different opinions and to argue with the authorities and with power in order to make democracy work effectively. And I think the Department of State should be particularly proud that we're the only department of government which recognizes dissent, which has a dissent channel, and which has, as AFSA has so effectively promoted over the years. I didn't realize until Charlie Rivkin said in 1968, it's been a long time, but constructive dissent's a wonderful thing, and I think it's right that we celebrate it. The recipient of the award for constructive dissent for a Foreign Service Specialist this year is Elzar D. Kemper, who is the Assistant Regional Security Officer for Investigations in Cairo. As a career Foreign Service Diplomatic Security Specialist, he served in not only the Diplomatic Security Headquarters in Washington, but also in Karachi and Kabul, as well as his present post in Cairo. Following President Trump's executive order of January 27, 2013, protecting the nation from foreign terrorist entry into the United States, Elzar Kemper decided to register a dissent. His dissent was not with the thrust of the executive order. It was with the way in which the United States overseas conducts its investigations of security applicants. He felt that by and large, the investigations were effective and were successful and did the job that was required of them, but he felt that it was not done in a sufficiently coherent or effective way. His memorandum, which he filed in the dissent channel, analyzed the current department policies of security investigations of visa applicants. He criticized the current practice of having a number of different agencies and groups involved as a rather dispersal of authority and efficiency. He felt that the regional security officers were particularly qualified to do this job, had the capability and that the department could more effectively rely upon its own regional security officers to do this job rather than have it as dispersed among agencies as it now is. His recommendations, which showed how the department could better handle this with more effective use of regional security investigation officers, formed the basis for some talking points which were used in discussions in Washington with the National Security Council and others. I think that to have spoken out against department policy in this way and provide a constructive alternative, which is the idea of this award. It's to be constructive, not just to be cantankerous or objecting. It takes courage and it takes smarts. Elsevier, will you please join me for...
Good evening, everybody. So I want to begin by thanking the American Foreign Service Association, Mr. Alan Tex Harris, the Department, and the Bureau of Diplomatic Security. I also want to thank the Nelson B. Delavan Foundation as well. I'm humbled and honored to work at such a prestigious institution with impeccable leadership. I also want to thank my friends and family who are present today, who have supported my dissenting conversations, emails, text messages, phone calls, and rants about different things since I was a child. So I appreciate that. I also want to thank my parents and sister, who rightfully haven't always appreciated my dissenting opinion and behavior growing up, but were always supportive, and I'm really happy you guys are here, and I love you guys, so thank you. Obedience is not patriotism. History has shown dissent is central to any democracy and the sustainability of a healthy and productive organizational culture. The department is unique in that it has a formal avenue to voice dissent that provides an opportunity to ease the unnerving sensations of fear and frustration and express an alternative view. The importance the department has historically placed on the value of dissenting opinions speaks to the unrelenting ideal of hope. Regardless of your political affiliation, beliefs, or bureau represented, the creativity and freedom to express your opinion remains a core value. In my opinion, given the current sensational society that exists today, having the ability to dissent, to respectfully disagree with protection from retribution, unconstructive criticism, is a department tradition that is desperately needed. I decided to express my dissent because I believe in the institution of the Department of State. I also believe diplomatic security most clearly understands the importance of fairly and safely facilitating travel for all foreign nationals who meet our nation's requirements, and should be promoted through interagency policy as the department's leading operational authority on overseas visa and passport security initiatives. I think I speak for many of my diplomatic security colleagues when I say we are eager, willing, and fully capable to take on this assignment and lead the department to facilitate legitimate travel to the United States, secure U.S. borders, and defend the integrity of the visa and passport security efforts. Once again, I want to thank those in attendance today. Congratulations to all those receiving awards. Well done. Thank you.
And we now turn to our awards for exemplary performance. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Sushma Palmer to the podium to present the Mark Palmer Award for the Advancement of Democracy. Dr. Palmer?
Thank you, Ambassador Stevenson, and welcome. It's a great pleasure to be here. Before I start, I want to welcome Mark's sister and brother-in-law who came down specially all the way from New Hampshire to attend this ceremony, and a number of Mark's other friends are here, and our family friends are here. Welcome, and thank you for coming. It's a great pleasure to present the Mark Palmer Award for the Advancement of Democracy. We established the award in 2015 in honor of my late husband, Ambassador Mark Palmer. Mark, as many of you know, had a lifelong passion for advancing democracy, opening closed societies, and ending dictatorships. This passion emanated at Yale in the 1960s when he joined the civil rights movement, and it persisted throughout his life. Our goal in establishing the award was to recognize members of the U.S. Foreign Services around the globe who share Mark's vision on democracy. The award is given to an officer who embodies bold and creative achievement and has demonstrated imaginative, determined, and effective means to advance democracy and expand freedom in closed societies. Our panel had the enviable task of reviewing many outstanding candidates this year. First, I want to recognize our runner-up, Maria Elena Barron. Where are you, Maria? Barron, actually. Maria, congratulations. Maria's leadership helped achieve historic milestones in Nepal's transition from a post-conflict monarchy to a stable democracy. Congratulations, and thank you so much for being with us. The 2017 Palmer Award is shared by two distinguished diplomats. The first is Ambassador Tulinabo Mushingi. Ambassador Mushingi is here with us in the audience. Congratulations. Ambassador Mushingi has made democracy and human rights promotion the centerpiece of his Foreign Service career. Our panel especially wants to applaud his exemplary work and achievements during his recent post as U.S. Ambassador to Burkina Faso. Under dire circumstances and at great personal risk, Mr. Mushingi mounted a one-man, all-out campaign using his car as his headquarters to help secure freedom for the Burkina people. His powerful voice was crucial to ending the 27-year reign of the Burkina dictator. His personal influence with a broad array of stakeholders in the country prevented major bloodshed despite a violent coup d'etat attempt. And most impressive, his persistent efforts were instrumental in 2015 in bringing about free elections and a peaceful transition to democracy. It is with great pleasure and admiration that I invite Ambassador Mushingi to receive the Mark Palmer Award for the Advancement of Democracy. Ambassador.
Since my speech is longer, I'll take some water first, and all of you can relax while I prepare for my speech. Good afternoon, and happy American Eagle Day. I learned that today is also American Eagle Day. Allow me to thank first the nominator, whoever nominating me for this, and of course AFSA for selecting me for this award. I'm honored and humbled, of course, to accept it. But many of you know that credit has to go, really, to the U.S. Mission Ouagadougou team. We all worked together. Whether crisscrossing Burkina Faso in 100 degrees temperatures to meet with people of all walks of life, or taking the 4th of July event and making it a platform for us to push our message, we at the embassy kept stressing good governance principles such as the respect of the Constitution. I clearly and consistently communicated our policy during public speeches, on social media, and in private meetings during my tenure as U.S. ambassador. And despite risks to my personal and professional life, of course my wife is in the auditorium, room, and he should attest what we had to go through, hiring bodyguards and not walking around the neighborhood anymore. I became the lone, clear, and consistent voice to publicly advise against a proposed constitutional amendment to presidential term limits. We countered the statement that Burkina Faso needed strong men with our mantra saying, strong institutions, not strong men. When popular protest turned into an uprising in October 2014, I worked tirelessly for nonviolence and an adherence to a constitutional transfer of power. As the former president fled the country, Ambassador Palmer's 2003 words became current again in Burkina Faso, and I quote, "Dictators go fairly easily when people start to get organized," end of quote. To the new military in charge in Burkina Faso at that time, I had 3 asks. 1 was to hand over power to civilian authority. 2 was to reinstate the constitution. And 3 was to hold elections in 1-year period. In spite of an attempted coup d'etat in September 2015, the country held fair and transparent presidential elections in November, and a month later saw the first ever peaceful transfer of power between civilian presidents. Finally, as I said this morning in another speech, a different speech, the Burkinabe taught me that when making speeches, the mouth that is talking ought to have pity on the ears that are listening. So let me stop there. Thank you very much for this honor.
Our second recipient is Renee Goutel, a human rights officer in Embassy Beijing. Our panel commends Renee for her bold and skillful diplomacy in achieving a measurable impact on the Chinese government's treatment of political dissidents, and this is no mean task, I'm sure you all know. Renee persuaded her colleagues and many in the diplomatic community to send a joint letter to Chinese authorities. This was considered by some at the UN Human Rights Council to be a precedent-setting event. She also engaged Chinese human rights activists to pressure their leaders, and simultaneously, she continued to work on programs with Chinese authorities to promote human rights. This is really amazing. The result was greater visibility, reduced sentences, and better treatment for dissidents and their families. Renee, it's a great pleasure to invite you to receive the Mark Palmer Award for the Advancement of Democracy. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today. It's an incredible honor to be associated in some minor capacity with Mark Palmer. Dr. Sushma Palmer, it's been very inspiring to learn about your husband. I'd like to thank the American Foreign Service Association, as well as some of my mentors who are here today, such as Dan Beers, Susan O'Sullivan, and Scott Busby. I'd also like to thank Embassy Beijing, including some of my colleagues in the political section, Abby Trenhale, Rick Waters, and Paul Baldwin. And I would also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my husband, John, who's at home caring for our 2 children back in Beijing. I became human rights officer the same month that the government launched a nationwide crackdown on human rights lawyers. That meant that about 300 lawyers and activists were detained. And these lawyers really did nothing more than try to use China's own laws to defend their clients. And these clients were people who, for example, were Christians who had been persecuted. They were people whose families, whose children had actually gotten sick because of tainted melamine. There were people who believed in Falun Gong. But for all of these reasons, the lawyers who defended these clients became under the scrutiny of the Chinese Communist Party, and they were detained. What we've tried to do in Embassy Beijing is work with like-minded governments to speak out about these incidents, and we've found that promoting human rights and speaking out on behalf of jailed prisoners in China is not just the right thing to do as part of the U.S. State Department. Promoting democracy is one of our core values in the State Department, but it's also effective. And we've seen time and time again that when we do speak out, when we do have difficult conversations, both with foreign governments as well as within the State Department, that we see effective results. And so we've seen actually today, 2 years hence, there's only a handful of people in that initial crackdown who are still detained. And many family members of detained lawyers have told us repeatedly that their husband, their sister, their son are out today because of the engagement of the United States government and other like-minded governments. That's not to say that this work is easy, but promoting democracy is some of the most important vital work that the U.S. State Department can do. And if the United States is going to continue to be an example for the world, it means promoting universal values such as freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of association. My job has been occasionally heartbreaking. It's not easy getting calls and learning that some of your best contacts have been detained. Documenting accounts of torture is challenging work, but it's incredibly important. There have been days where I have cried, and there have been days where I have wanted to quit, but I have to tell you, this award really means a lot to me. So thank you very much, and it gives me a lot of encouragement to keep at it. So I appreciate it very much.
I now have the pleasure of presenting the award for achievements and contributions to the association, which recognizes an active duty or retired AFSA member of any of the foreign affairs agencies represented by AFSA who's made a significant non-monetary contribution to the association. This year's recipient is Foreign Commercial Service Officer, retiree John S. Wood. As John would quickly tell you, he is not only representing himself when receiving this award, but he's representing all the fellow members of the Foreign Service Group in Austin, Texas. I was honored to be the one to nominate John for this award after being deeply impressed when I visited Austin in late 2016 by John's inspired work to tell the proud story of the Foreign Service to our fellow Americans. And as I soon came to learn, pretty much every member of AFSA's staff knows John and has had the pleasure of working with him on an idea or a project or some wonderful email exchange. John is indefatigable, and I mean that in the most positive way possible. As I've said to many people, if all Foreign Service retirees were like John, the Foreign Service would have that much longed for strong domestic constituency in no time at all. It's my pleasure to welcome John Wood to the podium. John? Let's get a picture. Smile for her. So she can really see. Got it? Great. She got it. Terrific.
My goodness, it's a little larger than our luncheons. Thank you for this honor, recognizing the work of active and retired Foreign Service families, members, and friends worldwide. Geographically dispersed groups like diplomats, their families and friends, can be a huge force for good, given a few resources and encouraged to be creative. For instance, across the country, more and more cities are recognizing Foreign Service Day, the first Friday in May. We need a lot more cities to do that. In Austin, we have participated in local National Night Out events with the police. We create and hand out emergency cards for American travelers. We produce bibliographies of our luncheon talks and maintain an extensive website, www.tfsg.org. I'm sorry, there are not enough pencils getting out writing that down. www.tfsg.org. And it's typical. Our webmaster, who runs 6 websites, all for free, is a woman. What else can I say? And it's great. We applaud and continuously promote the indispensable role that diplomats and development professionals play in protecting and serving America's people, interests, and values. I'm honored to have been able to spend part of my life in this endeavor. It's great. I don't deserve it. The whole group deserves it. I told them that, and they didn't believe me.
I now invite Ambassador Bill Harrop back to the podium to present the Nelson B. Delavan Award. Bill?
Thanks, Barbara. I think everyone in this room who's worked in the Foreign Service is very aware of the absolutely critical role that the Office Management Specialist plays. I know that in my career, Foreign Service secretaries, this was pretty much before they had the dignity of a title, such as Office Management Specialist, were just simply essential to my ability to do my job. And my wife, Ann, and I were particularly happy to name an award for Office Management Specialist after her father, Nelson B. Delavan. The recipient this year is Diane Corbin, who has been working in South Sudan, in Juba, which I think we all recognize as being among the hardship posts of the Foreign Service, to put it very mildly. Diane's been in the Foreign Service only 15 years, but she served in Guatemala, Panama, Addis Ababa, Santo Domingo, and now in Juba. She has done a marvelous job in this very difficult little post in a country torn by civil war and hardship, a brand new country. Her DCM, Jim Donegan, in nominating Diane for this award, said that she had organized morale building and community strengthening activities in the mission. She contributed to the success of every single office there. She was, in fact, the only OMS in Embassy Juba. She worked to orient incoming staff. She volunteered at an orphanage in Juba. When one of her colleagues tragically died at post, she accompanied the remains back so as to meet the family and reassure them about the life that their child had had. She's really, I think, exactly the sort of person that we hope the Delavan Award would go to. I might say that Diane is a New Englander, and she is an outspoken fan of both the Patriots and the Red Sox. Diane?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to the AFSA board members, the representatives of the Delavan family, invited guests, family, and friends. And it's an honor to have been nominated for this award by my colleagues in Juba, South Sudan, and it's an even greater honor to have been chosen as this year's recipient. For those who are not up on the status of our various missions around the world, Juba is one of the most difficult posts to serve in. We are an unaccompanied post. We're small in size. We're in an undeveloped city. South Sudan is a country that's been living with civil unrest for 4 of the 6 years since it gained independence. Not only is there continuous fighting in the countryside, the South Sudanese are struggling with famine, lack of infrastructure, and minimal social support. We are the only post I know of where we live in the bad neighborhood, which means near the presidential compound. My colleagues assigned to Embassy Juba are the most dedicated employees that I've served with in my 15 years in the Foreign Service. The American staff bid on South Sudan because they care. They want to make a difference. The local staff work to make their country a better place. I served in Juba for 29 months so I could make their work and their lives easier. As an OMS, my job is not only to support the Chief of Mission, but to support every member of the mission. We all work long hours under difficult conditions, trying to keep the South Sudanese people alive. This is not the kind of post where you can say that something is not my job. There's a need for us all to step up and get the job done. That's what I try to accomplish in Juba. A smile and a willing response go a long way in making the day better. As we all know, but do not often say aloud, a good ambassador's OMS really does run the embassy. I am proud to be part of this elite group. I have to thank my family and my friends for their support during this long tour. It was very difficult, and I would not have been able to accomplish all I did without your support. And thank you to AFSA for this award.
Y'all want to serve with Diane, don't you? I now invite John Clements, CEO of Clements Worldwide, to come to the podium to present the M. Juanita Guess Award.
Thank you, Ambassador. Good afternoon to all. You know, it's a highlight every year to join you to honor the Exemplary Performance Award for a Community Liaison Officer. This award was put together by my late mother and really holds a deep meaning to me. Our winner this year, Aubrey Dowd, is a CLO in U.S. Embassy Dhaka. This embassy really values its CLOs. Aubrey's predecessor was our runner-up for this award last year, and this year Aubrey was nominated not only by one, but two of her colleagues. Aubrey is recognized for her immense contributions during a tremendously challenging time in Dhaka. This embassy went through an authorized departure, and Aubrey steered the community through it with calm and relentless adherence to providing correct and up-to-date information. She has worked closely with the RSO to set up safe excursions outside the embassy, and in the words of one of her nominators, what makes Aubrey stand out from all other CLOs is her incredible effort and the kindness she brings to her work. Before asking Aubrey to join me, let me tell you about this year's runner-up, Michael P. Murphy. He was a CLO in Algiers. The ambassador who nominated Mike credits him with helping transition the embassy from a hard-to-fill post to one that is, quote, family-friendly, brimming with community and cultural activities, and attracting more bidders than ever. Mike, can you please stand? Okay, Aubrey, it's your shot. Come on up. She's a tremendous person, by the way. Got to you.
Good afternoon. I want to start by thanking the American Foreign Service Association for recognizing the important work that CLOs do every day in support of our foreign service community. I am truly honored to be receiving the M. Juanita Guess Award today. My tour in Dhaka, Bangladesh, recently came to an end. In fact, I just returned to DC this past Sunday. I'm a little jet-lagged. Dhaka is a challenging and wonderful place, but despite the challenges and changes the embassy community continue to face, the work we do there and the support the community has for each other is unlike anything else I have ever experienced. I am so proud to have served alongside such a resilient, intelligent, and mission-focused group of Foreign Service officers, locally employed staff members, and their families. I also want to thank Kathy Love and Sharmeen Hassan, my CLO colleagues back in Dhaka, for working tirelessly to ensure the well-being of the community and their families. I would not have been able to accomplish nearly as much without their dedication and hard work. Lastly, I want to give a shout out to all the CLOs, past and current, CLOs who will remain committed and dedicated to our foreign service families around the world. I hope that the CLO family can continue to keep doing the amazing work that they do. Thank you again.
Excuse me, in my excitement about Diane's support of the Patriots and the Red Sox, I forgot to mention that we had a fine runner-up for the OMS award, Judith Brown, who is working in Cameroon. So that, I'm sorry she couldn't be with us today, but she was also an excellent candidate as office management specialist.
And now I would like to invite Meta B. Croft to present the Avis Boland Award on behalf of the Boland family.
Good afternoon. I am very honored to be here on behalf of Ambassador Avis Boland and her family to present the award named for her late mother. That is the Avis Boland Award for Exemplary Performance by an Eligible Family Member. The list of recipients for this award since its inception in 1983 is truly impressive, and I have the great pleasure of helping to honor the latest addition to the list. This year, we recognize Dr. Henry Throop of the U.S. Consulate in Mumbai, India. Dr. Throop, who also happens to be an astrophysicist, has done amazing science-based outreach to the community. He gives talks to underserved students, provides advice on STEM careers, organizes nighttime astronomy observation sessions, brings in NASA visitors to meet with the children, and has received over 100 requests from all over India for these unpaid engagements. Dr. Throop adds immense value to the outreach efforts of the consulate in Mumbai and truly exemplifies the spirit of this award. He builds bridges between the U.S. and the community in which he serves, and in so doing enriches the lives of those whom he meets. He is truly impressive, and I am delighted to be able to recognize his splendid contributions. It is my distinct pleasure to invite this year's recipient of the Avis Boland Award, Dr. Henry Throop, to come to the podium. Dr. Throop.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here. I'm really so lucky to be at EFM in the State Department. I'm grateful for the opportunities that have been given to me through my wife, Heidi Hottenbach, Foreign Service Officer. Well, we've been living abroad with our kids. Thanks, of course, to Heidi for putting up with me teaching one more class and giving one more school visit many times over. And thanks to all the embassy and consulate staff in all the places that we've lived for helping out with setting up talks and school visits and interviews and on and on. I mean, the State Department just does this amazing job of outreach. So I do astronomy. I have this research career thanks to my colleagues at NASA. And in last 8 years, I've been spending a lot of my time visiting schools and museums and science festivals in India and South Africa and Mexico and so forth. And what I get to do it's not the governmental collaboration that the State Department does, but it's more kind of personal diplomacy. I'm working one-on-one with individual students, classroom or school, and working with them to learn about what's a NASA spacecraft doing at Pluto, and taking portable telescopes outside and looking at the stars, and going to a village in Africa, and whether you're in DC or Joburg or Mumbai, it's the same stars here as there, and it's easy to make these personal connections. And so I've worked with these great students, small village schools where their parents grew up under apartheid, and now they're the first ones who can go to university, and they're doing great things with it. And as these personal connections take off and grow, then this is what enables countries to grow. And they do large international collaborations in big ways that weren't possible 20 years ago. I mean, it used to be that science could be done just by individuals in labs, and now more and more it's being done in larger and larger collaborations. And that's only possible if, with international collaboration, especially in the developing world. I mean, in South Africa, we have the largest telescope in the Southern Hemisphere, and it's a joint project between group partners from India and from New Zealand and from the US and from Poland, because you can't build all these things just one country working by itself. It's just it's too big to build alone, and you really get this power by collaborating. So, and I see this every day, the sort of international projects. When you talk about these with students, they love what the US does, and they like what NASA does, but they also, they love what happens in their own country. And by seeing these international collaborations, then they see how they can be involved with them and internationally and locally, learn about the world, get an education, and make it a better place and explore. So anyhow, thanks to all the students that I've worked with, and to the State Department, and to AFSA, the Boland family, thanks to my colleagues at NASA, and thank you all.
Thanks. So this concludes our award ceremony this year, and thank you all for being with us today as we honor these highly deserving recipients. Congratulations to all of you. And thanks also to our presenters and our supporters. And for all the visitors that came in and have visitors badges, a little note that when you depart today, could you please do so through the C Street entrance? Now, please also keep an eye out for the September edition of the Foreign Service Journal. There'll be great pictures of all the people that you've come here to honor and bios of them, so it'll be a great edition. And I'd like to invite you all now to join us in the exhibit hall to celebrate this occasion and drink a toast to our honorees. Thank you again for being with us. Thank you.